Welcome to the Off the Mic Wrestling Show here on a Sunday. A lot of stuff's happened this weekend, so I felt like I needed to come on here and, address some things that I've seen on the internet. Some shows have happened. Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor happened earlier this weekend on Friday. There was a couple things on this show that kind of bothered me a little bit, but I'll get to that a little bit later. First thing I need to address here. And I know these are coming from some tribalistic accounts, but it's kind of emblematic of where we are in terms of the state of wrestling and what AEW and some of their fan base has kind of done in terms of driving a wedge between the war between two fan bases. And this really pissed me off. So one account did one, I don't know if you guys see these things they do like a match is better than this one. It's it's the commonality in what we see in the internet wrestling community, the IWC. So one account goes, the two AEW women's matches are way better than the WWE women's matches, and it's not even close. Better stories equals AEW. Better matches, it'll be AEW. Okay. First of all, why is this a thing? Can we not be grateful for the fact that there are 4 major women's wrestling matches on 2 massive stadium shows next month, all in London and SummerSlam? Can we not be happy about that? Women's wrestling 10 years ago, you could not dream of having 4 matches on a show like SummerSlam or All In. Women's wrestling 15 years ago, when I was growing up through this, it was all about bra and panties or just thrown together 6-woman tags and total divas versus non-total divas. It's can we not be happy that there is compelling enough stories in women's wrestling in 2024 where we could have Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan in one of the better women's feuds in the world right now, driven strictly by the fact that Rhea Ripley got hurt, and there's been heat on this thing for a year. Bayley and Nia Jax has heat from 7 years ago, and even if you don't like Nia Jax is honest to God one of the best things in the women's division right now in WWE. And then you've got a beautifully told story between Mariah May, who came to AEW, started this 9-month arc with Toni Storm, this shocking heel turn, and it's going to be in Mariah May's home country of London on a big stage when there was one women's match significantly at AEW All In last year, and it was a thrown together 4-way that Saraya just won because she was from London and they didn't have really a plan. They wanted it to be Jamie Hayter and it wasn't that. And then two of the most recognizable female stars across the world in Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné are going to have a match as well. So we have 4 really good women's matches on 2 separate shows at 2 major North American wrestling companies. That would have never happened a decade ago, but we want to compare them. Why? Why is this always a contest? And why can't we just like things? And this is why some of these pro AEW accounts just drive me insane, because what are you trying to prove? Who cares? There's 4 decent matches involving women across 2 shows next month. That would have been unheard of, like I said, a decade ago. So can we stop with this crap, please? Because I swear to God, I see it across a lot of things. But when it comes to women's wrestling, especially with how far it has come in the last 10 years or so, even like I say in the last 5. I mean, we've had women's main events happen in the last 5 years, and that was unheard of at WrestleMania. Can we stop with this, please? That's my first real point that I really wanted to hammer home here. So, okay. So let's get to Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor. All in all, this was a really good show. I'm not going to run match by match here and really kind of give you a blow by blow thing, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't really watch it. There wasn't a whole lot of interest because, like I said, I can't really get access to Honor Club. I really don't follow it from week to week. It's not really a reflection of, Ring of Honor as a whole. I like a lot of the people there. Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman, I think, are maybe the best broadcast team in the game, but they don't get the visibility that they deserve because Tony Khan is spread himself too thin and trying to run two separate wrestling promotions. And he's kind of alluded to the fact that maybe they might merge and they might do an ROH but that creates another problem, and your roster's too bloated. And on the AEW side, it's like, how are you going to make that work? So, the one thing I do, first off, Mark Briscoe retained the Ring of Honor World Championship, which was awesome. I'm really happy for him. Like, he's been a breath of fresh air. He's fantastic. It's awesome to see him being able to carry Ring of Honor, even at the place that it is right now, given the fact that his brother was one of the great Ring of Honor stars of all time, and he passed away last year, which was unfortunate, and it really sucked. But I love the way that Tony Khan has treated that family and treated Mark like a star. And Mark has really been a staple on both Ring of Honor and AEW television. So that was awesome. He had a great match with Roderick Strong. Lee Moriarty, who I really liked, won the Pure Championship over Wheeler Yuta. So that was really great. Red Velvet, who's been around for a long time, she won the women's TV title over Billy Starks. So, but I need to address first of all, Athena. Get this woman on main roster AEW television ASAP. She has had an incredible run as the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, and outside of the Ring of Honor sphere, nobody cares. Nobody cares because she's never seen. And this woman has, honest to God, been one of the best. I talked about all those women's matches that are going to be happening in the next month. Athena has reinvented herself. She was Ember Moon on the main roster. It didn't work out in WWE. She got hurt and then was unable really to get herself in good graces enough. She went back to NXT, and it just didn't work out. And she started off as a face in AEW, and it just, like I said, she made a heel turn. She ended up winning the Ring of Honor Women's Championship, and she has held that title for damn near 600 days. It's been a remarkable run. Her character work is unbelievable. She's done some great stuff with Lexi Nair and Billy Starks. It's an incredible storyline, and a large chunk of the wrestling world does not get to see this because Ring of Honor is not on basic television. And it's like, that's a shame. So get Athena on main roster television. So Athena has a match with Queen Aminata, who's been kind of become a really solid woman in Ring of Honor and also on AEW. She had some great establishment matches before she ultimately signed with AEW and Ring of Honor. And, you know, so they're having this match. It's a great match. Athena's been, just like I said, been killing it really as the Ring of Honor champion. So towards the end of the match, Queen Aminata, going to try and finish off Athena, hits the Tiger Driver 91. And I'm like, what? What? Did this finish the match? It didn't. Athena retained, as I alluded to. Why? Why are you doing this move when your top babyface or one of your top faces in your company is going through a storyline where he couldn't do it to win the AEW World Championship and lost? He couldn't do it to retain his international championship in one of the most bogus finishes to a 1-hour match that I've ever seen in my life, and lost the title to MJF. He's not doing the move. You've been playing up the fact that he doesn't want to do the move because he hurt Bryan Danielson, even though Bryan Danielson's fine now. And yet, that's good enough to be done in another match and not even finish it because there was a whole bunch of shenanigans there. Don't do the move. It completely undermines the move itself. It undermines Will Ospreay. It makes him look like a coward. It makes him look like an idiot. And it is emblematic of this type of stuff where they just try to do every million. And like, it was good with NXT for a while because WWE was so terrible. But now WWE's got these storylines that, okay, having these crazy moves that don't finish off the match, and you have a kick out, or all this other stuff. Stop doing it. I didn't get it, and people are trying to argue with me, oh, it's a different match, and it's like other people have done it. I don't care. I don't care. Like, why are you doing that when you have a big major storyline arc with one of your top stars that you are trying to tell, and he has lost a world title match, he has lost his international championship in the span of a month because he didn't want to do the move, and there's supposed to be this big thing that's going to probably happen at Wembley Stadium where he's going to hit the move and win the match, which is fine if you're going to tell that. But if you're going to do it in another match and not have it finish it off, what's the point? What is the point? Okay? I had a huge issue with that. It was a great match, but these little things in these little lapses in booking that just really irritate me with how AEW operates, or Ring of Honor operates. It's under the same umbrella. Let's call it what it is. So let's get to the weekend itself. AEW Collision and Battle of the Belts happened, and this weekend. So it was 3 hours of television. They're having this nice little residency at the Esports Stadium in Arlington. One of my buddies went out there to see it. It seemed like a really intimate atmosphere. About 1,000 to 1,500 people there. So, but I want you guys to get a look at this card, and I want you to tell me, does this interest you to watch on a Saturday night? The Beast Mortos against Hologram. Hologram's been interesting. Okay. Thunder Rosa against Maya World. The Premier Athletes versus the conglomeration of Kyle O'Reilly, Tomohiro Ishii, and Mark Briscoe. Orange Cassidy versus Johnny TV. FTR versus MXM Collection. By the way, that's an awesome story. I can talk about that in a second. And then the main event is Lio Rush versus Pac. Who is watching that? Who's watching that? Like, why is Collision a thing? Like, why is Collision a thing if that's the card you're going to put out? No top stars on that whatsoever. It's like, it's a complete and utter afterthought. It's like that. I will say this. Good for MXM Collection, Mansoor and Mason Madden, the former Mace or Mace or Dio Madden, whatever he was on commentary. Good on those guys. Because that was a thrown together gimmick, Maximum Male Models, that almost ended LA Knight's career before it started as Max Dupree. And then Maxine Dupree, who ultimately left that and went off to go with the Alpha Academy. Good on these guys for getting themselves over on the independent scene after getting released and getting to a point where they could go to another company and make this thing work. And they had a really solid match with FTR. FTR put them over after they beat them. So I'm definitely, that was a nice little thing. But like I said, overall, this card just did not register with me on any level. And it's like I said, and then going to the Pac Lio Rush match, why did that match with Boulder have to happen on Blood and Guts if you're just going to have him have a match on Collision? Why waste television time on a BS squash match to get Pac? Like, that didn't make any sense to me if you're just going to do another match with him against Lio Rush and then put on a banger, which admittedly these are two of the best workers. But again, there's no story here. There's nothing. And it's like none of those matches are going to get you to hook in and watch the show. So that was a huge issue. Then there's Battle of the Belts, and I had a huge problem with this show. I talked about it. Toni Storm wrestles Taya Valkyrie in a AEW Women's World Championship Eliminator match. Okay. I mean, Toni won. No shocker. Toni cut a promo after the match, really impassioned about the portrayal from Mariah May, and that was great. But, you know, again, they didn't need to bring Toni back so quickly. They could have let her sold it. We knew that that match was happening. It was already made because of the tournament. There was no need to rush this match, or to rush Toni back to TV so you can just have her have a glorified enhancement, a long-term enhancement match with a good wrestler in Taya Valkyrie who hasn't mattered in about a year. She's basically been a glorified valet for her husband. So, I mean, why did that match need to happen? I don't know. Then you have another eliminator match, mind you, on a show called Battle of the Belts. Battle of the Belts. Between Willow Nightingale and Deonna Purrazzo. It's an eliminator match for the CMLL Women's Championship that Willow just won. And by the way, is going to have another eliminator match against Chris Statlander on Wednesday. So, sure, why not? Deonna Purrazzo has actually been built up kind of nicely since losing earlier in the year to Toni Storm, and is now fully a heel, which is, let's face it, she's better as a heel. But still, eliminator matches on a show called Battle of the Belts. Why are you? I understand there's like a contractual thing of they have to do a certain amount of these things with this name on it. But Jack Perry, I understand that he was. I mean, you just had Darby Allin compete in a match like the next 20 minutes later. I mean, kayfabe and 2 nights later and win in the Royal Rampage. Where the hell's Jack Perry? Why can't Mercedes Moné be on Battle of the Belts if she's just going to be having random matches with Nyla Rose? Or why can't Okada have a match? Because he was in... I mean, I understand some of this is timing, but there's no excuse why you can't run a show called Battle of the Belts and actually have title matches on it. When you have 2 eliminator matches making up a show called Battle of the Belts, that's ridiculous. And when you have 9,000 championships in this company, some of them being held by heels, trios championships, just won them last week in that building. Why can't the patriarchy have anything? It's just like none of that made any sense. There was a 6-man, six-man championship Ring of Honor championship match to main event this show, which had a nice little moment with the Von Erich kids teaming with Dustin Rhodes against the Undisputed Kingdom. But wait a minute, didn't we just merge these titles and unify them with the in the Bullet Club Gold, or not the Bullet Club Gold, the Bang Bang Gang versus the Acclaimed, and they just dropped that? Look, I'm okay. I'm willing to kind of give it a little bit of a pass here because, it's a nice moment for Dustin Rhodes. He hasn't held a championship on any major promotion in like a decade. So it's really nice to see him and Cody be champions in the same year. That's really cool. And also for the Von Erichs, who are like royalty in Texas, for them to get that moment with their dad was really cool. So that, but again, a lot of the way of setting this up was pretty ridiculous in my mind. And again, like I said, 2/3 of this Battle of the Belt show, no titles. When you have so many people holding championships in your company and you can't get at least something. I mean, the Young Bucks haven't defended their championships since they won them. There's so many championships in this company, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't understand why you can't have something be defended on this show. And the only title that was defended on this show was a Ring of Honor championship that was unified like 3 months ago. Like, come on. Man, it's just like, yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a hot mess in terms of like how this was handled. But like I said, it's some good wrestling. But again, Scott Steiner, and a good quote that I saw from Scott Steiner, I think he might have been at Comic-Con when he was saying this, but Scott Steiner said basically, hey, you can't just have BS matches, otherwise nobody's going to care. And like, some people take offense to that because, oh, you don't watch. Yes, there's stories there, but the point is, when I read you guys off the card for Collision, what in the world is there any story there whatsoever? And some of these stories are just not good. I like Christian as much as the next guy. Him just being the guy who hoards all the titles and just being like the egotistical father, it's getting a little tiresome. Because now I guess there's the render for the champions on the page is just him holding all 3 championships, and I guess Nick Wayne and I can't say Luchasaurus anymore, Kill Switch. It's like I said, Christian's fine. He's one of the best minds in the game, and I'm glad that he's getting a chance to show off his ability. This is becoming very redundant and tiresome. It's just dead dad jokes, dead relative jokes, and him just holding on to championships that, like I said, he's part of the team, but he's not the whole team. Like the joke's wearing thin. So, again, like I said, back to my initial point is like, you got a show that's about championships, and you got one championship match, and it was strictly made so that you could have that moment at the end, which I'm fine with. But those championships were unified a week before this, when the patriarchy beat the Bang Bang Gang in a really convoluted, setup where Jay White's not able to compete. Juice Robinson tries to take his place, and they just strip him of the titles, and then they have a match the next week, and the patriarchy wins. Like, just a lot of messed up stuff here. Okay, Another thing I need to address here. So on Collision last night, it was addressed that I guess Lance Archer is going to face Will Ospreay this week. I guess they have a history in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Again, like I'm not actively like in the history. I like people. I like sometimes like, and I love these hype packages that Triple H has kind of done to kind of like narrate the importance of these things. It helps your average fans. And I'm not saying I am a wrestling I'm not going to say aficionado, but it's like I'm a big time wrestling fan. But when it comes to like, the stuff outside of the sphere of North America, it's really hard for me to keep up with once you get past AEW. And even TNA, sometimes I have a hard time keeping up with, but I do follow. So Lance Archer is going to face Will Ospreay. I already addressed this earlier on with the whole convoluted thing and the whole ridiculousness behind somebody else using a move that he doesn't want to use. So let me get this straight. Will Ospreay went from beating maybe the greatest of all time in Bryan Danielson to winning the international championship to going for the world championship at Forbidden Door, going toe-to-toe with Swerve Strickland and almost beating him, to losing his championship in a near hour-long match to MJF with a BS finish. So going from all of that to facing Lance Archer, who I admit is a great guy. I got a chance to interview him a few years back. He is a great guy, a lot of history. He's really built himself up. AEW has not given us a reason to give a shit about Lance Archer in the last year and a half. It just like pretty much I would say going back to when he was in a feud with Hangman Page a couple years ago. It was like Hangman's first big feud out of the Bryan Danielson stuff when he won the world championship in 2021 and into early 2022. Since then, nobody has given a crap about Lance Archer. Okay, all due respect, I think he's a great talent. He's been doing it for a long time. Why is Will Ospreay, after getting his match against MJF for the American Championship now at Wembley Stadium in a month, what good does it do for him to get in the ring with a big MFer like a Lance Archer who has almost no credibility to him? All he does is just beat a bunch of geeks up. That's his gimmick. What good does that do? You're just going to it doesn't help Lance Archer at all because he's barely been built up and taken seriously. And it also, that doesn't help Will Ospreay one bit. You're just putting him in a match, like just for the sake of it, because we know MJF's not going to do anything. He's a heel. I understand Will Ospreay is going to be like this fighting spirit and stuff. You don't need to put on guys in matches every single week to get them over. Everybody loves Will Ospreay. Try to build this feud that you hot-shotted on the television rather than just put him in random matches just to get you to Wembley. That's lazy. That is lazy. And that annoyed me. Okay, a couple women's storylines I want to get to before we get out of here. First item up for bid. Or I feel like I'm on prices right now. First item on the list here. There is rumors going around that Raquel Rodriguez is ready to return to WWE. And I saw it floating around, a couple of people suggesting Raquel Rodriguez should help Liv Morgan retain the women's championship at SummerSlam. No. Please don't do that. That doesn't need to happen. The Dominic Mysterio element of this story needs to play out before we get Raquel. I absolutely 100% believe that Raquel, when she does return, should unite with Liv against Rhea, because there is a story there. Liv and Rhea and Raquel, they all have a history together. Raquel and Rhea go way back to their early NXT and like their Performance Center days. So that there's a lot to tackle there with the roles switched from last year when Rhea was the heel and Raquel was the babyface. I actually think there's a lot of mileage you could get. Raquel did really well in NXT as a heel, bodyguard, effective heavy for Dakota Kai going into the pandemic. That, like I said, there's a lot to be done there. But please do not have Raquel Rodriguez be the reason that Liv Morgan retains the championship at SummerSlam. That is just going to fall completely and utterly flat. And that's not to disrespect Raquel Rodriguez. I think a lot of people would pop for her return. I think the night after SummerSlam, or 2 nights after, because now they do it on Saturdays. Do it on Raw. Have Raquel return the night after, or the Raw after, or give it a couple weeks, building into Bash in Berlin and building into the rematch or something, or have her like when Rhea's still chasing, because I think Liv is gonna win. Have Rhea be screwed over in the rematch in some capacity because of a returning Raquel Rodriguez, and drag this thing out to Hell in a Cell. I think there should be a Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood. That's where I think this should go. You don't need to just return everybody and just, to make the storyline interesting. Again, the bigger plot point in this whole Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan storyline is Dominic Mysterio. We think he is aligned with Rhea. We all know he's going to end up going to Liv. That's where this is going. That's where this should go. And I think that's where the big plot point should be played. And I think the, fracture in the Judgment Day is really going to come to fruition, because Damian Priest is going to, lose to Gunther at SummerSlam. I think Rhea's going to lose to Liv, which there's no fault in that. Like, I think there's a lot more story to be told there. And clearly Finn Balor is going to turn on Damian Priest at some point, and the rest of the Judgment Day is just going to fracture, and there's going to be like the Civil War. So you add Raquel on the heel side, you add, I don't know, you could find somebody else. I mean, Rhea, frankly, doesn't need to have another woman aligned with her, because Rhea is just such a badass. Like, who cares? Like, she could probably take on both Liv and Raquel. I mean, she took them both out at the same time. So yeah, I mean, I want to see Raquel Rodriguez back. I think she's vastly underappreciated, vastly underrated. I mean, for God's sake, she competed in that Elimination Chamber earlier this year with the condition that she was in. Ballsy. She's a badass. So I hope she comes back. But like I said, I hope it's not at SummerSlam. And then the last item here that I really want to talk about, Beth Phoenix is reportedly not under a WWE contract. This isn't surprising. She went away from, she was an NXT commentator before they went to the 2.0, and then the subsequent new version that they have, which is kind of like a hybrid between 2.0 and Black and Gold. So she's been really away from this. She had one match where she was involved with Edge last year leading into WrestleMania. They had the tag match against Rhea and Finn. It was Edge and Beth at Elimination Chamber in Montreal in 2023. And Beth, for the large chunks of the last, the last year and a half, largely unseen. She's been a mom to her kids, and she's been a very supportive wife of Adam Copeland, as he is now no longer Edge after 25 years. And she is the voice leading of the "You Think You Know Him" in his entrance music, leading into Alter Bridge's Metalingus in his entrance song. So that's really cool. A lot of speculation that Beth will go to AEW. Beth, I mean, she's for being a Hall of Famer and having the career that she had, she's still relatively young. She's in her early 40s. Like, she's young. So, and the word is she's in really good shape. She can still wrestle. So I would not be surprised if she ended up in AEW. And a lot of people are speculating that that might happen. Listen, more power to her. If she wants to go be with Adam, that's totally fine. My issue with all of this is, like, we've got to stop putting ideas in Tony Khan's head that he needs to sign every single hot free agent or big name free agent that gets to the free agent portal. If you guys follow college sports, the transfer portal, that wants to go through the portal, I guess, and try and go across. You don't need to sign every single major wrestler. We just saw somebody as talented as Camille, who was one of the longest reigning women's champions across any promotion ever. She held the NWA Women's Championship for like almost 900 days. The woman is gifted, and she's got a physical presence about her. And she literally was signed like 6 months ago and finally debuted on AEW television this past week. And also they kind of diminished the impact of her being this bigger, more imposing female by having Mercedes Moné in these high heels that made Mercedes the same height as Camille. So my point is, stop trying to sign all of these free agents and focus on the people on your roster. Because it's starting to become like 2018, 2019 WWE, where Vince McMahon would just hoard a bunch of talent on his roster and just not use them. these people who are on your roster and you are paying money for, they need to be used. Otherwise, what value are they to you? Because your ratings have gone down year over year consistently since 2021. We talked about that on my Thursday mailbag show. Like it's year over year. It's not good. Your ticket sales have been gradually decreasing since CM Punk and Cody Rhodes left since 2022. That's been a common thing. Like, I'm not going to get into the tribalistic part of it, but these are facts. These are facts. Worry about your product. Stop trying to sign every single wrestler. I do think that Beth Phoenix could do some good. She won't go by that name. She could go by Beth Copeland or whatever, and maybe you could do something fun with Adam. But it's like, that feels almost so cheap. If you're going to bring in a Hall of Famer like a Beth Copeland, a Beth Phoenix, have her do something impactful, okay? Like, have her do something with like a Britt Baker or some imposing figure, like a Camille or something like that. Because Beth herself is a bigger and more physical, like, impactful woman. Like, she had something with Rhea. I wish they would have done a singles match with, but they did the tag and that was fine. So if you're going to do something like that, at least do it with like a wrestler. But like I said, Adam's out right now. He's probably not going to be back until later in the year. But like I said, my big overriding point there is this has been a common thing with AEW. Ricochet is going to come in eventually. That's been reported for months now. My problem is you bring in these people, you give them the hot thing, and most of them just drift off into oblivion. Like Athena was one of those examples. And to her credit, she made herself a thing in Ring of Honor, but nobody watches Ring of Honor unless you're a die-hard wrestling fan. So let's pace yourselves, everybody, okay? And Tony Khan, pace yourself, buddy. All right, that's my Sunday show. Like I said, I just had a lot of stuff on my mind, and I know Raw is going to be heavy tomorrow leading into SummerSlam. But hey, 6 days away, people. SummerSlam in Cleveland, in the Cleve, in the land. I'm really excited heading into this weekend. It should be a fun week. We'll have more here on Off the Mic Wrestling, OT Mic Wrestling here on YouTube, OT Mic Wrestling on Twitter, also Off the Mic 28 on Twitter as well. Follow me, get back at me, tweet at me. I really don't care. I'll bark at you. I love the banter, but please don't be tribalistic. Be civil, people. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.